Did Bricky upload a new video? I think Bricky uploaded a new video. Or we're gonna do a Bricky reaction video. We haven't done a Bricky reaction video in a while. You know, when it comes to my reaction videos, once I get the most views, have be the ones of Bricky because you guys love Bricky. He's great. He's a great creator. So we're gonna do a reaction video for Bricky. As always, we're gonna have a link in this box below to the original video. Show him some love, which I'm sure most of y'all have already seen the videos to begin with. Because it's been like a few days. I've been busy. You know, we had the New Warriors video that I just put out. Yeah, also I'm working on my Star Wars review too. So yeah, I've been pretty busy. But do all things like the video, comment, and subscribe, and as well follow me on Twitch. Link be in the box below, as well as some other links in as well, like the link tree, get you to some other channels. Yeah, this is gonna go up on the main channel, not the reaction channel. Like I said, the reaction channel is mostly for non-gaming related reactions. This is game related. We're going to do a game related reaction. Let's get into it.
Hello, everybody. My name is Bricky. Currently, well, feeling a little whelmed. Not overwhelmed or underwhelmed, but
I didn't see what the title of the video was. My bad. The title is "What Even Are AAA Games Anymore?" My fault.
Just whelmed. I stand here in front of the green screen I painted on my closet wall, thinking to myself, this is certainly one of the days of all time. $70. $70. It's a lot of money. It's also like not a lot of money. I recall a conversation I had with a friend on the discussion of the $100 bill.
So I'm just going to chime in right now when it comes to like the whole $70 thing for video games. The way I look at it, and this is kind of like a neutral take. This isn't a take on favoring consumers or favoring the companies. This is a neutral in between, you know, kind of like centrist-esque like take, where it's like, you know, because of inflation, because of how time changes, money has different value. Video games at $60 were like $60 for how long? Like I think the Dreamcast, the GameCube might have been the first console that had $60 games. I think, you know, we got to remember, like, if you're old enough, you remember back in the day where it used to cost like $40 to get a game, and they added an extra 20 to it, and it came to 60. Like you're paying $60 on PS3 and the 360 and whatnot. But if you take into account inflation, we should actually be paying way more for a single video game copy than when we do. So to like give like an idea, let's say 2005, that's when the 360 came out in PS3, where, you know, basically let's say this is the standard. We use this as our benchmark, as our standard for inflation. We use an inflation calculator. So it's not like me just pull numbers out of my ass. It's like I used, you know, actual math and an inflation calculator to do this. A video game when it comes to like inflation, $60 in 2023 compared to 2005. It's $93, not $99 and some change. So we're still under, like, in terms of like, you know, inflation and taking into consideration, we're still not even paying what that $60 would be worth in 2023 with inflation. So we're still basically, you know, getting a deal. And this is a well-known thing when it comes to gaming. Every studio is basically, you know, releasing things at a loss. When it comes to making a game, $60, you're releasing at a loss. You make it $70, you're releasing at a loss. Every game console is being sold at a loss. You know, like they're making money, but like they're not making as much as they could because they're not adjusting for inflation, because, you know, we're not going to pay that much. We're not going to pay $99 for a standard edition video game. We're not going to pay $1,000 for a video game console. So they're not going to increase those prices that high because, you know, they know for a fact we're not going to pay that. So that's why consoles are still $500, even though they should be more if you take into consideration inflation. And games should be costing more than $70, even though they don't, because, you know, they're not taking account for inflation.
And how it is simultaneously a lot of money and almost no money. $100 is a decent amount of groceries, a nice dinner date for you and someone special, refilling a lot of cleaning supplies around the house, or even a lot of essential bits of clothing, like simple name brand underwear, socks, t-shirts. You can get a lot for $100, but it's also not even a month's worth of electricity, a fraction of rent, and just barely covering a full tank of gas in 2023. And over the past 5 years, even the $100 that meant a lot feels like it's meaning less and less with rising inflation, poor wages, and a housing market that is at best infuriating and at worst unfixable. Along with the price of basically everything else, video games are also increasing in cost, going from the $60 they have been for over a decade to $70 for the quote AAA game. This recent price jump has been made extremely known to us as its reveal was superset between the release of a game that couldn't be played and a game that nobody wanted to play. Which now leads us to a discussion. What should a $70 game really be? Or better yet, what is a AAA game that is worth such a price point? Because throughout my entire life, games have been priced at either $50 or $60. From as young as I can remember playing video games, they were like $50. But a quick Google search says that roughly around 2006, they started retailing for $60. This would have made me 11 years old. Or in Call of Duty release timeframe scale, a year before COD 4. That's how I remember video game years, is COD release dates. It's all off the top of my head right now. Ghosts 2013, Modern Warfare 2 2009, Black Ops 2 2012. It's all there. So that means we haven't had a general price increase for about 17 years. It's not to say there haven't been ways to get more money out of games, of course. Deluxe editions, promising in-game items going for up to $100 or more, DLCs, or as they used to say, or call it my day, expansions, and other microtransactions insulated a lot of the $60 purchases.
Whenever I see Valhalla, I get sick.
Hot take? I'm actually surprised the $70 price tag didn't come sooner. If we look at it from a pure inflation standpoint, $60 in 2006 is almost $90 today. Plus, it's not like the cost of making games.
When I did the inflation calculator, I did 2005, so 2006. So, if we do go back to the inflation calculator, I don't know if we need to pull it up, but, he just did it. So I guess $9 would be the difference. But even still, like, you're almost paying $100 for a single game.
Has stayed the same.
With
games
inflation.
are made by people like you and me. And to say that their wages haven't also needed to go up to facilitate a more expensive economy would be generally incorrect. Ironically, when you look at it in relative terms, video games have actually gone down in price over the years, staying the same cost for a while costing more to make, while not adjusting for inflation, which would make sense why there have been such an absolute abundance in microtransactions and upsells to make up the difference. So our new price point at $70 has been created. And let's be real, none of us can stop it now. The precedent has been set, and every major publisher is just happy that someone else did it first, so they don't appear to be the boogeyman. I will go out and say, I don't mind that the new price of AAA games is $70. I was astonished it remained $60 for as long as it did. But I will say,
again, neutral take here. How much something is worth or the value of it is based on each individual person. A lot of people buy, these collector editions that cost almost $200, and people are like, God, I'll never buy that. But they make those because someone does buy them. I don't know if you can see it. Let's pull it to my main screen. All right, so trying to in the middle of the bookshelf that you see behind me, a little lower, you might see a cog. That is Gears of War 3's. I don't know if it was a collector's edition or what. I don't remember. It was like 80 or $90. The game was $60. I bought that because I love Gears of War, and I value that because it was Gears of War, and I don't regret buying that at all because it has a lot of good stuff in it that I, as a fan of the game, really enjoy. So my point is, if the price of something doesn't really matter as much if you are into what you're buying. So someone might buy a $100, Ultimate Edition or $200, collector's edition or whatever, and someone might think it's silly, but they like that, and it's not for you. You don't have to buy. You just buy the regular standard edition. It just generally comes to like $7 price tags. I don't see it as much a big deal. Cause, it's an extra $10. If you're an adult with a job, you likely have that extra $10, and that's like a, you have phones, right, kind of take. But it's just one of them things where it's like, if I know for a fact I want to like that game, sure. Especially if you look at it as the what's the analogy of $1 per hour. If you, for every hour you spend on a game, you get that, your money's worth. So if you play a game for 40 hours and it's $40, you got your money's worth. If you play a game for 60 hours and no $60, you get your money's worth. The issue here is you start getting these bloated games like Valhalla, where the companies are the ones who are stretching these games out to a point where it's like they're 300 hours long. So technically you did get your money's worth plus some, even though, you know, you didn't enjoy all 300 hours of that. So you kind of want to have like that conversion rate being more of a, you enjoyed 70 hours. So it made the game worth the $70.
Two things. One, I should not be your base metric. Thanks to the success of this channel, the sponsors I have, streams I do, and lovely community like yourself that shows up and watches these videos and buys merchandise at orchidate.com, I am doing very, very well for myself. I am not the average person. I am not the working class. So my $70 is very different than your $70. And it does me good to constantly remind myself of that. And two, the game has to be worth $70 fucking dollars. Redfall is not worth $70. Jedi Survivor on PC should not be
Right now, I don't think any game from the genre Redfall is worth even $60, let alone 70. I made a review for Redfall. You know, you can watch it if you want to, but like generally, I don't value the, you know, PvE co-op games that were just like you and three other friends against just hordes of enemies. Like, you know, again, Back for Blood, Redfall. What was the alien game that they had that came out was Fire Team Elite, World War Z. Like those games should never cost more than $40. Just they don't have that kind of content to warrant being more than $40.
$70. I should not have to pay $70 for a broken game with the hope it'll be fixed later. You don't pay for a car and have the dealers say, yeah, all the tires are popped and it has no windshield, but it'll be fixed at some point. When? In the future. When in the future?
When will then be now? Soon. How soon?
If I can make a blanket statement today, it's this. I don't give a shit if your game is $10, $40, $70. It's a fucking product. I don't sell people half a goddamn shirt. I don't care about your deadlines. Don't sell me something broken. Lick your wounds, post your Cyberpunk delay image, and fix your shit before it comes out. Swallow your pride and speak to whoever ran the PC port for God of War 2018, because that game can run on my fucking Tamagotchi. Of course, I speak to the publishers more than anything. I do not fault the individual devs. I fault the unrealistic deadlines and management of those above them. Your game needs to work. Yeah? Whew. Whew. Management. Yes, management. Next part of the script.
They are such babies. I am going to leave them in there.
Management that seems to be present in the AAA industry more than most others. Those that are at fault, I refer. Because this whole thing begs another main question. What even is AAA game? Why'd I say that way? What even is AAA game? What is AAA? What even is a AAA game anymore? Not only what it is, but once it's defined, is it even a sustainable concept? Like, the line between AAA game and the rest of the world's products is getting constantly blurred. For many, AAA is a standard of quality. An example of this would have been Blizzard a few years back. Blizzard games were notoriously high quality. Often their ideas weren't the first, but they were something that was really nailed down. It kind of made me have this feeling of like the Apple of video games, where nothing Apple does is particularly brand spanking new and crazy new technology, but they tend to make the things they do make really polished. Overwatch 1 was a great example of this. When it came to the individual aspects of Overwatch, everything felt rather pristine. The UI was smooth and transitioned well. The character designs looked unique, and the animations were crafted in a way that felt as if industry veterans were making them. Graphics too play a part in this. Not photorealistic per se, but its own special feeling and art style. The game was also relatively bug-free. I don't remember encountering any bugs in the launch of Overwatch, and my only real issue was the server capacity, but even then, like, I kind of get it. I still got a ton of games in regardless. We have quality, right? Another thing to be associated with AAA is the size of the games. What are you offering? How much content is there? If we take a trip back and we think about Halo Reach, like, that game was jam-packed for what it had: a fully fledged 7 to 8 hour campaign that can be played normal or co-op, Firefight, a co-op horde game mode, a fully fledged multiplayer with a ton of customization, maps, and game modes, Forge, a massive map customizer.
When I say a rank system for Halo Reach, if you ever play Halo Infinite, leveling up basically equals nothing. Like, you're just leveling up. You don't get any, there's no reward for it. You're just leveling. And in fact, there's not even a level system, just the battle pass that you level up. Halo Reach had like an actual level system from like 1 through whatever, but it's like also it's like the military ranks. Like, you become like you rig up your lance corporal, you get a bunch of like unlocks your armor, rig up again and again and again and again. You get to like lieutenant colonel, more freaking like collectibles, not collectibles, like armor pieces, things like that. Those are the good days.
That could be a game in itself, and custom games, the hilarious game modes that were played from the maps you made in Forge. This was a massive game. The sheer volume of content to be played is staggering, truly staggering. So we have A, quality, B, size, and finally C, the name. And we can't pretend as if the name isn't a huge part of what makes a game AAA. Like, your studio could be 40 people or 400 people, but if I slap Activision Blizzard on it, Electronic Arts, or Naughty Dog, it's going to be taken as if it's a AAA title. And this extends to people working on it. If you have Troy Baker voicing your lead, that means something. If Laura Bailey or Jennifer Hale are contracted, it assumes you have money to spend. Money smaller companies simply don't have. The industry is all names at the end of the day anyway, right? So those are your 3 ABCs of AAA: quality, size, and names. The building blocks of a major AAA release video game. Or are they? Day by day, 1, 2, or even all 3 of these factors are being abandoned. It's not uncommon for a game to be missing some or all of the building blocks, yet still masquerade itself as AAA video game. Let's look at Cyberpunk when it came out, right? Size? Absolutely there. Present in all its glory. Name? 100% CD Projekt Red. Well respected. Quality? An absolute failure. A cautionary tale on the very concept of pre-ordering a title. It lives in infamy, despite the fact that it's okay now. But I didn't buy Cyberpunk for it to be okay now. Apex Legends. Names? EA and Respawn. I mean, that pulls weight. Quality? Bit iffy on that one. Game constantly breaks, servers have issues often, and I've encountered my fair share of bugs and cheaters. Size? I don't think so. There are a few maps, sure, but for the most part, it's one big game mode and a couple side modes. It lacks a campaign and any co-op mode that its predecessor, Titanfall 2, had both of. Now, Apex is not a $60 game, but they shove microtransactions into you so often. The amount of horrendously expensive events that it hits you with day in and day out, and still having loot boxes in 2023. Good God, even Blizzard abandoned those in Overwatch 2. Their solution isn't much better, but goddamn. And we don't even need to cover Redfall. We don't even need to cover Redfall, all right? All I had going for it was the name Arcane. The rest is an evident failure. In fact, Arcane is a question in itself. Is that considered a AAA studio? It has a AAA publisher behind it now, Bethesda, but again,
I feel like Arcane has never been considered AAA. Like, are they against AAA? Yes, but I don't think, I wouldn't say they've ever been considered that. I feel like Arcane's games have always been kind of viewed as like those that othered, like they're that othered group for like Bethesda, because you have like the juggernauts of like Elder Scrolls and Fallout. You have like another tier below that where it's like Wolfenstein and Doom. Then you have that tier below that where you start getting into like Arcane games, so Dishonored and Prey and now Redfall. So like, Arcane games, though amazing as they are, they're like 2 tiers below, what will be considered, Bethesda's big budget titles. And I feel like that's what AAA kind of is. AAA is kind of viewed as like the big budget titles. I don't think any of Arcane's games have ever been considered big budget. So like, I wouldn't call them AAA games, but technically they would be, because I'm pretty sure Arcane Studios is fairly packed when it comes to developers. Like, even when it comes to Redfall's made by Arcane Austin, which I think is separate from the studio who did like Dishonored 1, Dishonored 2, or at least separate from like the ones that did Prey. So like, I think there's 2 studios for Arcane, and Arcane Austin is like a newer one who handled freaking Redfall. So like, even less, because you're not getting the same talent. I don't use the word talent, but you're not getting the same kind of like people who are doing Arcane games, or as people who are doing Fallout, or people who are doing Elder Scrolls, which is like, what Bethesda's top tier people are working on. That's just my take on would Arcane be considered a AAA company.
Game like Prey, which is a personal favorite of mine, feels extremely AAA, but it doesn't have a big name or big size. It's entirely a product of quality. I mean, League of Legends is the biggest game in the world, and all you do is load onto the game map day in and day out, and you break your computer when Yasuo outplays you under the turrets. So this ABC, quality, size, and name building blocks we've created are already falling apart. The shooter games of 2010s with the campaign, multiplayer, and co-op mode isn't a good metric to go by anymore. And we can't just use made by X company anymore either. I am a look back and I see Ghost of Tsushima and Hades, my top 2 games for that year. One by Sucker Punch Studios and the other by Supergiant Games. Ghost of Tsushima has all the hallmarks of being AAA. The game carries tons of talent, has a grand scale and quality to match. It is a genuine treat to play and replay. But Sucker Punch Studios is not a group that some of you might even be familiar with. For some of you I'm a 27-year-old man and I'm about to break into this bit. You youngsters out there don't realize Sucker Punch Studios made the infamous games. Super underrated titles back in the Xbox 360 era. That was a time. See, Sucker Punch carried a lot of weight back then, their name. Hades, though, puts AAA stuff to shame. It hits all 3 building blocks easily with its quality, length, and name recognition. But Supergiant is a tiny-ass studio. How does one call them AAA at the end of the day? Is it the price point? I would have paid $70 for Hades. The amount of hours I put in that game and the quality of it is insane. But it's made by Supergiant, teeny little studio, and it only costs dollar amounts. I don't remember how much it costs. Skater, put that right there, please. But even so, like, indies in general can do stuff better than the big names can. Like, Supergiant is a constant reminder that quality is not just budget, but also talent. Individual talent from devs. They're putting out games that run flawlessly and can feel like pieces of art. So many people think that like making a video game, being a dev is just plug and play, like just code it this way, just formulate it this way, just balance it this way. And it's like saying, yeah, it's easy to play basketball, just do what LeBron does. Building a game is a skill, and being a dev means that you are good at that skill, but there are devs that are better at skills than others. Supergiant has accumulated this group of devs that are, while small, really fucking good at their jobs. Ow. Owlcat Games. Oh man, Pathfinder and that new Rogue Trader game that I actually got a chance to demo, which was really good, and I think people are gonna be really happy with that one. Yeah, please, if you wanted to, you'd be on these titles for genuine years with almost no reasons to put them down. Hell, I'm playing this game right now called Moonbreaker by Unknown Worlds, creators of Subnautica. It's a turn-based multiplayer game where you can control little miniatures that you can paint and fight other opponents and their lists. It's a bit Warhammer Kill Team, a bit XCOM, and a bit Mechanicus, all wrapped into one. Thing is, the voice talent they have is astounding. Over and over, I hear voices I constantly recognize, either from games like League and Overwatch, or just, you know, there's Matt Mercer. Moonbreaker is an amazing game, okay? That's probably my subject for my next video, and I'm terrified. The player count right now is not very high, but oh my god, it's so good. It's so good. But going back from there, there's the question again, right? What even is a AAA game anymore? All the things that are synonymous with AAA can either be done as well or better by a smaller company, or games that used to be considered AAA are plummeting and failing at that very job. So I ask again, for the 40th time this video, what even is a AAA game anymore? Google says it's a game with a big budget, made by a name brand publisher. That's not what it used to be, but that's what it's become. AAA back then meant a type of game, a big studio game with lots of content, great quality, and name brand talent. Now it's a game with lots of money with a good studio. The entire concept of AAA, of AAA quality has changed. It's in a weird way a house of cards. To be a high-profile game made by a big publisher is to submit yourself to the extreme gamble, because to make that, you need a high budget. And that budget isn't exclusively being used on the game. There's a great video on Casper mattresses made by YouTuber Modern MBA, we'll link in the description, which explains the absolutely astonishing amount of money spent on advertising that direct-to-consumer companies often spend. Often, a lot of the Silicon Valley venture capital people, the tech bro is like the new dollar jock at this point. They find themselves in the video game industry seeing either a quick buck or the next major thing to invest in. But investing in America isn't just about getting a little bit more money back. It's never-ending increases in profits. To be profitable isn't enough. If you had 25% more profits one year, the next has to be 35. Being 15 isn't acceptable, despite the fact that you're still making money over your cost. I know I have some fans in the game industry, and I feel like even in the smaller studios, the amount of higher-ups that just have a ton of money, but no idea what making a game is like, is prevalent. The amount of times you are forced under horrible deadlines, terrible working conditions, and God knows what video game company culture, because a whole bunch of dudes from San Francisco with a trust fund their dad gave them is now flushing full your company with capital. And now you gotta do what they say. But that number has to keep going up and up and up. So $60 is one thing. Then you release a sequel every single year. Then you add microtransactions to it, loot boxes, a mobile port. You make deadlines smaller so games come out faster. And when all that fails, you fire hundreds of staff to make up the difference and up the price. All of this is not in pursuit of making really good video games. It's in pursuit of a golden goose. Why would we make Titanfall 3? When we could make a free Battle Royale game that has ridiculously expensive in-game events every single month and still has loot boxes in 2023. And even if we do make a classic, lovely, single-player story game for $70, it will have a deluxe edition, and it will be broken at launch. You know, I'm not a console war person. I don't much care, but Sony still finds a way to make games that actually feel like they're worth the cost and turn a profit. God of War, both of them, mind you, are exceptions that prove a rule. They're a look into what AAA gaming used to be. No, is supposed to be. In a weird way, I wonder if it's a blessing. If the AAA industry is eating itself alive with unrealistic deadlines, massive CEO bonuses, and poor employee treatment, will that blend the line between indies and major publishers? I don't see high-profile games sitting with overwhelmingly positive on Steam, okay? Just one.
Where's everyone going? Bingo?
It's Outer Wilds, Signalis, Deep Rock Galactic, Stardew Valley, and so on. Indies, or AA games, whatever you want to call them, are the ones that can be as good, if not better, than anything high profile, and all they lose is the ability for photorealistic graphics, which is no longer a selling point like it used to be. And really, what is price worth to you? You, specifically, $70, $40, $20, what are you even looking to get out of it? Like for some, it's just hours. Dollar per hour of game time, I hear some say. Now, these are often those like me who are so deep in the Destiny grind we forgot what sunlight is. Maybe it's narrative fulfillment, a strong story with good characters, a Witcher-style game or a Last of Us. Competition, ranked ladders, skill ceiling, Street Fighter, CSGO, or just fun like Mario Kart or Overcooked. The line between it all is being blurred. Prices fluctuate depending on game. Content fluctuates depending on intention. And AAA is really just a game by a big studio with a big marketing budget. What it really means at this point, it's whatever you make of it. I'm surprised the industry has survived this long. I feel like if it wasn't for a multitude of golden geese, many wouldn't have been able to. But too big to fail is a real thing. Bloons Tower Defense taught me that, and for each Redfall that's put out, there's something there to make the money back. I've always wanted to make a video game, you know, but I don't know anything about making a video game. I have ideas, concepts, but that's about it. I can't animate, rig, code, or draw, but I do have two things that almost every other startup doesn't: an audience to advertise to and capital to spend. But often, people with capital to spend are those exact same Silicon Valley guys that seem like they have no idea what they're doing. So finding a way to not be one of those guys is a little challenging, and something I constantly worry about if I ever do want to make a video game. I may in the future, maybe. If I ever do fulfill that dream, I probably wouldn't do it with investors. I do it with Kickstarter. Owe nobody money, just have a budget, hire a crew, and do my damnedest. And hopefully I can look back at this video and say to myself, glad I wasn't like these guys. But to be back on topic, a AAA game is something with budget and profile. And in its own right, it does not mean quality. Quality is found for prices other than $70 and by studios that aren't too big to fail. AAA is what you and I make of it. End of story. The old definition is dead and the new one is not satisfactory. So go out, look for those overwhelmingly positive games on Steam, support your local indie devs, and also stop releasing broken fucking video games, please.
Come on.
All right, well, that was, as always, another good video from Bricky. What I would say, you know, like I mentioned throughout the video on, you know, what the thought process is on what a AAA game is. He mentioned that AAA games nowadays, if you Google it, is just high budget with a big name attached to it. That's also basically what Hollywood is now. Like Hollywood, when it comes to like, what is a blockbuster? A blockbuster is a movie that has a lot of A-list celebrities, a high budget, and likely like a top tier director attached to it. You know, it's never a blockbuster movie is never like, oh, this is Oscar quality. Like usually when it comes to like Oscar quality movies, you don't even hear about those until the Oscars come around. You know, like you hear about them like LA, the Cannes Movie Festival, things like that. But blockbuster movies never even win Oscars. Well, they do, but it's like super rare because the goal of one blockbuster movie isn't even to like be a great movie. It's just to make a lot of money. You know, they want to print cash. Which is why you'll see guys like The Rock, who isn't really a good actor, get hired to be the lead of a movie because they know The Rock sells tickets. They don't care if The Rock is a mediocre actor. They're just like, it's The Rock, and people won't go pay to see The Rock. So that's kind of like the similarities between gaming and movies, where it's like, what is blockbuster, what is AAA? Having a lot of money, having a big budget, and maybe like casting, you know, because like that does play a role, and people will be more likely to watch a Spielberg or Tarantino or, you know, whoever movie over, well, nowadays Bryan Singer. No one wants watching anything he puts out. But yeah, you know, it's a good video as always. You know, show him some love, give him a like, give him a subscribe if you want to. Do the same here. You know, like the video, comment, subscribe. We're working on our Star Wars review, so that'll be coming out pretty soon. We recently did a review for Redfall. We also did a video talk about some updates for some games that are coming out fairly soon. I've been your boy Nubis. I'll catch you guys on the next video. Hope you all have a good rest of y'all day. Follow me on Twitch. We'll be streaming today. So yeah, I'll catch you guys. Y'all stay safe. I'm out of here. Deuces.